Good to be with you tonight from Tel Aviv. I'm Tony DeCopel. The breaking news right now. Another U.S. consulate on fire tonight after a drone strike in Dubai. The new images just coming in. And U.S. and Israeli warplanes continue to pound Iran. American guided missile destroyers launching day and night to disable Iranian firepower. What President Trump is saying tonight about what's left.
We have them very much beaten militarily from the military standpoint.
But tonight, the regime still standing as the Trump administration argues this war is worth it.
Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks.
Also developing tonight, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem facing calls for her resignation. Members of both parties not happy.
What we've seen is a disaster under your leadership, Ms. Noem.
And the verdict is in for that Georgia father who bought the rifle his son allegedly used to gun down classmates. What the jury had to say. And a small plane in very big trouble.
I think we're losing our engine.
What happened next?
This is the CBS Evening News with Tony DeCopel, reporting tonight from Tel Aviv.
Good evening from one of the many cities in this region under fire tonight. The war accelerating on multiple fronts as we come on the air. The U.S. and Israel launching ferocious new attacks today on Iran to our east. Even as President Trump says, quote, just about everything's been knocked out there. And yet Iran still hitting back. Again today, Iranian missiles rained down on U.S. allies across the Gulf and right here in Israel. The sirens repeatedly warning us to take cover. And the U.S. confirming a drone attack just hours ago sparked a fire near the U.S. consulate in Dubai, with all staff accounted for, we can say. Overnight, though, one of Iran's most successful strikes yet, a direct hit on the U.S. embassy in Riyadh, setting fire to the building and forcing additional U.S. embassy closures in Lebanon and Kuwait. Also tonight, we're learning the names of some of those American service members killed in what the Defense Department reports was a drone attack earlier this week in Kuwait. The soldiers from across the U.S. were assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command in Des Moines, Iowa. The oldest, 42, the youngest, just 20 years old. Meanwhile, in the oil-critical Strait of Hormuz, shipping traffic is near zero tonight after the Iranian Revolutionary Guard threatened to firebomb any ships who tried to pass. We have a team of correspondents on every angle of this again tonight, including the rising civilian death toll and the politics of it all in Washington. But we begin with the fighting today, everything we know about the war right now. Simultaneous attacks ripped through the Iranian capital today and shocked Lebanon. The IDF launching direct strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs. As a new ground operation there battles Hezbollah's campaign of revenge after the killing of Iran's supreme leader. Since Saturday, the U.S. alone has taken out more than 1,700 targets, according to U.S. Central Command, among them this military academy. And the IDF hitting the building where Iran's assembly of experts would have been expected to gather to appoint the next supreme leader. President Trump today saying Iran was all but beaten.
They have no Navy, it's been knocked out. They have no Air Force, it's been knocked out. They have no air detection, that's been knocked out. Their radar has been knocked out. And just about everything's been knocked out.
Including, it seems, the Natanz nuclear facility, showing fresh damage in these newly released satellite photos. And just a day after Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, said the Iranians had boasted about having enough enriched uranium for 11 nuclear weapons. Also tonight, we're learning more about how 6 U.S. service members were killed in an Iranian drone strike in Kuwait. While Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said the location was fortified, 3 U.S. military officials questioned that assessment, telling CBS all 6 were in a makeshift tactical operations space, protected against explosions, rocket attacks, and shrapnel, but not aerial strikes of the kind that killed them. Meanwhile, on the streets of Tel Aviv tonight, we saw residents still picking through what's left, days after an Iranian strike. Anything special you're looking for?
Photos from my family.
This woman told us she's looking for anything that feels like home.
I'm trying to save anything small, especially the memories, because there is nothing left to take. Everything is broken.
And not far away, we noticed 9-year-old Zohar peering in at the damage with his grandfather. You heard the explosion?
Yes, we are living there.
Do you ever get scared?
Yes.
What do you do to feel better?
Smile. Smile to me and I smile to him.
And we spoke to one other resident there who you might say was searching for a smile as well, and he found one. He found his children's toys, which he thought might have been lost in the blast. Well, let's bring in our chief correspondent, Matt Gutman, because you talk about civilians. For many, it's a desperate effort to get out of here.
Yeah, and you and I, Tony, were out here about an hour ago watching as U.S. warships fired Tomahawk missiles over our head. We saw Iranian missiles coming in. There are warplanes crisscrossing the sky, but what is not flying are commercial airliners, meaning that millions of people are stranded in this conflict zone. As the U.S., Israel, and Iran trade attacks, millions of civilians across the Middle East find themselves caught in the crossfire. In Iran, the Red Crescent says nearly 800 have died in 4 days of bombings. And today, in the city of Minab, a mass funeral was held for what the regime claims were girls killed in an elementary school. Rows of graves seen awaiting coffins.
I don't think war is inevitable.
IDF spokesman Nadav Shoshani denied Israel is responsible.
We're doing everything we can to be as accurate as we can and making sure that we are not targeting the Iranian civilians because we're not at war with them.
This comes as the U.S. State Department is telling the roughly 1 million American citizens in 14 countries to leave immediately and says help is on the way.
It's going to take a little time because we don't control the airspace closures. That said, there may be more people out there that need help. We need to know who you are.
But with most planes grounded, many are finding escape nearly impossible. Kat Spitzer is stuck in Dubai.
Everybody is scared. We don't want to be forgotten. We just want any way to get out.
This has been the wildest trip of my life.
American Tamar Rubenstein is pregnant with twins. She's taking a bus from Israel to Egypt, then flying to Athens, and then Munich, and then to Chicago. It'll take her 2.5 days. Why not just wait until the missiles end and stay in a safe place?
There's such a lack of clarity, so I didn't want to get to the point where I wouldn't be cleared to travel anymore.
That's a tough road. Now, Secretary Rubio has said that the U.S. is now chartering planes to try to bring Americans home. But, Tony, so many of those travelers that we spoke to said that the State Department just hasn't moved fast enough to help them.
You can understand their frustration. Matt, thank you very much. About 1,400 miles southeast of Israel is the Gulf nation of Qatar, which has served as a mediator in negotiations between the U.S. and Iran in the lead-up to this conflict. Qatar also hosts a large U.S. military base, in fact, the largest in the Middle East. CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tayyab is there. Imtiaz, good evening.
Tony, good evening to you. Well, in what could mark a major escalation, Gulf nations, including here in Qatar, are weighing whether to join the U.S. and Israel and strike Iran themselves after accusing Tehran of, quote, reckless and indiscriminate attacks on their countries.
Tonight, an Iranian drone struck the grounds of a U.S. consulate in Dubai, setting it ablaze. There are no reports of casualties, but it's part of a punishing campaign by Tehran that has seen the United Arab Emirates targeted more than any other nation in the Gulf. The UAE's Ministry of Defense released this video showing its air defenses intercepting one of 186 Iranian missiles fired at the country. Most were shot out of the sky. But the damage to hotels and residences has been extensive. At least 3 people have been killed and nearly 70 injured. The Gulf state's military spokesman, Major General Abdul Nasser al-Hamadi, has said the state will repel any aggression against it. Qatar says it's been targeted by more than 100 ballistic missiles and at least 39 drones. Some strikes shut down one of its main liquefied natural gas plants, the lifeblood of its economy and spiking prices globally. Majid al-Ansari, the foreign ministry spokesman, was blunt.
The attacks like these will not go unanswered.
Qatar says it's already shot down at least 2 Iranian bombers while denying reports it has struck inside Iran. Now it and the UAE join Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, and Bahrain, facing a stark choice: absorb Iranian strikes or join the U.S. and Israel to hit back.
And tonight, Qatar has announced the arrest of what it said are 2 cells operating here in Doha for Iran's Revolutionary Guard, potentially raising the stakes even further for further confrontation with Tehran. Tony.
Imtiaz, thank you very much. To Washington now, where the Senate is expected to vote tomorrow on a series of Democrat-backed war powers resolutions. These are aimed at stopping this conflict and preventing future wars that don't have a green light from Congress. Here's CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes with more reaction from Democrats tonight.
If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first.
President Trump insisted today it was him and not Israeli leaders who chose to launch this war this past weekend.
If anything, I might have forced Israel's hand.
That seemed to contradict what his Secretary of State said just yesterday.
Obviously, we were aware of Israeli intentions.
Marco Rubio said the U.S. had to strike when it did because Israel was planning its own offensive.
We knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believe they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us.
Democrats were quick to seize on the latest mixed message.
They can't make up their mind why they took the action they did, and so you get a different story every hour.
As the war heads into its 5th day, the partisan battle is heating up too. Trump says he has all the munitions he needs.
We have really an unlimited supply.
Democrats say that's not the case.
There is a potential desperate and disastrous shortage of THAAD and Patriot systems.
Trump says there was no time to craft an evacuation plan for Americans in the region.
Well, because it happened all very quickly.
Democrats say it didn't have to happen quickly.
There is no evidence that has been presented to us that the United States was under threat of imminent attack from Iran. Zero evidence of that.
Trump was asked today what he views as the worst case scenario here, and he said the worst outcome would be if he wages this war only to find that Iran's next leader ends up being as repressive as the last one. That's a concern he shares with members from both sides, Tony.
Nancy, thank you very much. We turn now to another big story tonight. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem drew criticism from members of both parties today as she appeared on Capitol Hill. Here's CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns.
Good evening, Tony. Well, in a very heated exchange, Democrats criticized Secretary Noem over the aggressive tactics used by ICE agents in Minneapolis and nationwide. Republican Tom Tillis also excoriated Noem over the mistaken detention of American citizens and said the rush to deport people was backfiring.
So why am I disappointed with Secretary Noem? Because we're not going after enough people who did this damage at the expense of running numbers that Stephen Miller wants out of the White House. We just want numbers. We want 1,000 a day, 6,000 a day, 9,000 a day, because numbers matter, right? No, they don't matter. Quality matters, not quantity, quality. And what we've seen is a disaster under your leadership, Ms. Noem.
Noem did not respond to Tillis, but disputed the claims that her department had specific quotas for immigration arrests. And she insisted that ICE operations are focused on the worst of the worst. Tony?
Caitlin, thank you very much. The midterm elections are now 8 months away, and the first primaries were held today in Texas, North Carolina, and Arkansas. A historic number of retirements from Congress is setting the stage for what is already and always a hotly contested battle for control of Congress. Senior White House correspondent Ed O'Keefe has made his way to Austin, Texas, and joins us now. Ed, good evening.
Tony, good evening. Opening night of the 2026 campaign season has Democrats sensing an opportunity here in the Lone Star State, but it all depends on what happens to four-term Republican Senator John Cornyn, who's facing challenges from two more conservative, MAGA-friendly opponents, the Attorney General Ken Paxton and Houston area Congressman Wesley Hunt. Cornyn warned in an interview with CBS if mostly, quote, radical Republican voters show up today, he'll likely lose. And Democrats could win his seat in November for the first time since Lyndon B. Johnson did it back in the day. Democrats are choosing between between two young, like-minded progressives with far different approaches to winning, emblematic of the problems the party faces as it tries to retake power this November. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Dallas is known as a partisan warrior on Capitol Hill, while her opponent, the 36-year-old James Tallarico, a state lawmaker from here in Austin, and a Presbyterian seminarian who's put his studies on hold, is taking a more big tent approach, believing he can attract moderates, independents, and Republicans who are upset with the president. The stakes are so high tonight here in Texas, both parties have spent about $130 million making these the most expensive Senate primaries ever. Tony?
Ed, thank you very much. Still ahead on the broadcast, a quick jury verdict for a father on trial for a school shooting carried out by his son. Today, a jury in Georgia found a father guilty of murder for giving his teenage son a gun, which the son then allegedly used in a deadly school shooting in 2024. CBS News correspondent Skylar Henry was in the courtroom as the verdict was read.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
Colin Gray sat stone-faced as a jury found him guilty on all 27 counts. The jury took less than 2 hours to reach a verdict. Colin is the father of Colt Gray, the teen who allegedly shot and killed 4 people inside Appalachia High School, the deadliest school shooting in Georgia's history. Prosecutors say Gray's negligence led to the tragedy.
You just had to do one thing and take that rifle away.
While Gray insisted he never noticed any signs of trouble, the state charged that he ignored years of Colt's red flags. They argued Colin fueled the tragedy buying Colt the AR-15 style rifle used in the shooting for Christmas. Prosecutors played for the jury surveillance video from inside the school the day of the shooting. Colt is seen walking the hallways and concealing the rifle in his backpack in poster board. He then emerges from the bathroom and begins shooting into a classroom.
This is just a watershed moment for the state of Georgia and really for the country.
Legal contributor Caroline Polisi says we should expect to see more cases like this.
We're seeing prosecutors really have a desire increasingly to go after parents that they feel are criminally negligent.
A sentencing date hasn't been set, but Colin Gray could be facing up to 180 years in prison. His son Colt is awaiting trial on 55 counts, including murder. He has pleaded not guilty. Tony?
Skylar, thank you very much. Up next, a sheriff credits divine intervention for saving the life of one of his deputies. A Florida sheriff's deputy took a bullet while responding to a call Monday, and you'll see it in this graphic body cam video from another officer. Officials say the deputy would have died if not for his own body camera, which stopped the bullet from hitting his chest. The suspect is facing attempted murder charges. Up next, a small plane crashes into an icy river. What happened next?
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Keep your career moving forward. Visit careers.progressive.com.
Even as we broadcast from a region at war, we end tonight with a dose of the good stuff from back home. Remember the miracle on the Hudson? Captain Sully Sullenberger bringing a bird-struck U.S. Airways jet with 155 people on board to an emergency landing on the Hudson River. Everyone survived, and the sheer wonder of it all was an inspiration.
We've lost our engine. Assistance is on the way. We're going into the Hudson River. I don't think we're going to make the airport.
That was the Mayday call last night from a single-engine Cessna after taking off on Long Island with a 17-year-old student flyer and his instructor on board. We don't know why it happened, but we do know they lost an engine, their only engine, and then somehow landed on an icy stretch of the Hudson River, not unlike the great Captain Sully Sullenberger. And they survived. It's just a tiny plane, not a giant commercial jetliner. But even a mini miracle on the Hudson is still a miracle. And in a week like this, I'll take it. That's another day in America and the world. Reporting tonight from Tel Aviv, I'm Tony DeCopel. Thank you for watching. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Good night.